If I can start with you, Bianca, could you tell us a little bit about the motivation and the process of writing Atlas, please?
It took quite a while to get all this information together, and making the book already was, for me, a work against forgetting places, but especially forgetting people, and to restore a kind of the feeling that all these people were individuals, men, women, children. That was for me one of the important things I try to work on.
Thank you. And Steve, I understand that you filmed. You filmed everything in Bianca's book, something like 2,000 addresses, and this ended up being 36 hours of material. Can you talk about the process of editing, radically reducing it down to only 4.5 hours? Will we see the full 36 hours in another form, perhaps?
Well, I think time is always, is precious. Time is precious. Our time on this planet, our time, it's become more precious now because of all these electronic instruments we have. So we often feel that we don't have time to do everything. If anything, the lockdown has taught us is how time is precious and how we spend our time. So therefore, I'm grateful for you coming this evening. And this whole idea of a 4.5-hour movie is nothing to do with length in the sense of way of devaluing. Is in fact value, because it's all about the weight of the material. And this movie could not have been an hour and a half. It would have been a disservice to the subject. What I did do was we shot everything in the book and more, 36 hours of material. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to create cinema. And cutting it down from 36 to 4 hours was just to have an idea, of understanding of what was going on during that time. And if anything, it tells us it should have been longer in the sense of the way, because you can't hold the weight of what happened in Amsterdam and other cities in Europe in this amount of time. It's about the process. And you want to say something about that? Because you said something great just a second ago about it. This was fantastic.
I think when I saw it for the first time in the 4.5 hour version, what it brought home to me the most was a sense like it could have even been longer, because this is a story that is in a way never ending. So if that amount of time gives you that message, you've got somewhere.
And also, it's a case of the more you know, the less you know, as far as this is concerned, this particular period of time. If it's inconceivable to understand or to gather everything from this period in time, because it was so horrific. And again, the more you know about the subject, unfortunately, the more you don't understand. And you try to get everything to understand everything, and actually, it sort of it runs away from you.
Yeah, that was, of course, the first motivation. You find out that something like the Second World War and the Holocaust exists, and you want to know more about it to understand it. But my experience is that the more you know, the less you understand.
I'm not really interested in, again, I'm interested in subject matter. I don't make films for film's sake, and what I mean by that is the subject matter dictates the form to me. Because, of course, you bring all of film history with you when you sort of make a movie. I imagine, with knowledge of it or lack of it. Doesn't matter if, innocent or ignorance. But the fact of the matter, the subject matter has to dictate to me how I make it. What am I trying to do? I don't bring my stencil and put it on the subject. The subject matter has to inform me. So the way I went through it, again, we're talking about the editing, and talking about, in some ways, the two questions, is I went about this almost like an English garden, British garden, English garden, because it roams. Bianca's book is very formal in the sense of the way that it's very sort of alphabetical. Would you say, or how would you?
Yeah, neighborhood by neighborhood, and then street by street, in alphabetical order, house by house.
And for me, I wanted to have a film which was as if you were walking through the city and you went this way, you went that way. There's a sort of English garden sort of aesthetic to it, as far as I'm concerned, in some ways of being lost and being found. So that's what I wanted to do. So, life is much more interesting than film, trust me. And I have a camera, and that could portray life, and that's more fascinating than even the most sort of minuscule or sort of seemingly unspectacular things could be monumental. That's what I was interested in. It's again a smell, at the taste, it's using the senses. Very important.
I think it's a history that Amsterdam can, does, and will take into its stride, because you can't deny history. So it has to be something that is incorporated into how people feel about their city, and it doesn't have to be in front of everything all the time. It's just a part of it.
And again, it's one of those things I feel that sort of, just like those kids, rolling up a spliff and whatever, you could forget about it neither. The weight, the freedom that was fought for us to be in a situation where you can forget about it, or embrace it. Again, it's not at all a judgment, but it's the way we are. I mean, immediately after 1945, you see amnesia just set in immediately. It's a very strange, to be human is very odd. In order for us to survive, it seems like we switch something off in our brains, but it's a bizarre existence.
It has not been shown in the Netherlands yet. It will be in the ITVA, the documentary film festival, in November. So we don't know yet.
We'll see, because again, like most people here, when I think of Amsterdam, or Second World War, I think of Anne Frank immediately. So for me to be in Amsterdam 27 years ago when I met Bianca, and to find out every footstep that I took, in some ways was walking with a ghost, and the devastating sort of stories I heard, which weren't necessarily being publicized as much as Anne Frank. It was kind of weird for me, because it was very, very strange to sort of feel that certain stories had been sort of pushed to the fore, and other things had been pushed backwards. So I'm looking forward to that screening. Absolutely. Well, we're lucky enough that the movie is being distributed here in Europe and in the United States. That's fantastic. I suppose the question you're answering in a way is that, and I think Bianca had this idea before, they could be occupied by city and...
Yeah, in other cities, you could make such a book and such a film about Paris or Berlin or Prague, and I hope someone will start to do that.
Actually, it was very easy. As soon as we told them what it was about, the doors were flung open. I would say 98% of the time was just flung open to us. And also, don't forget, certain people didn't know what happened in their house, or their offices or wherever, and that was sort of interesting too, because people embraced that. It was very interesting to have those kind of conversations of what happened in certain locations. If it was a home of a sort of a Nazi officer or so forth. It was just interesting that people, how they sort of came to it in a way as in the present and about the past. It was just interesting, different conversations. I don't want to go into all of it, but it was kind of confronting. But everyone felt it was like a healing process to do this. Would you ask Wagner to cut his opera? No. No. So we're not doing that.
No.
No. If you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. I mean, I don't just. That's the answer. But anything more you want to say? Sorry. But I mean, you know. Obviously. I've got size 10 shoes. I'm not gonna wear size 4. I mean, I don't want to say. Excuse me.
No, but obviously.
No disrespect, but it's one of those weird things where, you know, again, you know, cinema is not done. Who told you a movie should be an hour and a half? I feel like I said, but if this movie was an hour and a half, it'd be disservice to the subject matter. Everything has its place and its time. You know, it's sort of easily packaged or whatever. This is about the life. You know, it's a choice if you watch it or not, or see it as it is or not. You know, again, it's one of those things of editing or what apparently we're used to because of packaging. There's no way that film has been sort of done. You know, there's no way. When I shot this film, I didn't know if it was going to be a documentary, a feature film, or an artwork, whatever. And I still don't know what it is because I didn't label it. I just wanted the subject matter to tell me what it wanted it to be. So in life, just start living it ourselves, shall we? Just not limit ourselves. Next question. You just did it, didn't you? It's on the movie. I mean, I don't know how to sort of answer that question any further than you have. We talked about the colonialism of Indonesia, and of course, there's a climate march right at the end. These are crisis moments. And do you want to add to that at all? I'm sorry.
No, I couldn't say it better than you did.
It's just how one technique, myself and Leonard, the DP, how we sort of got into a mode of how to shoot without people looking at the camera. Again, it's one of those things that we wanted that to happen. I think the only person that actually looks at the camera towards the end is the little girl, the Ukrainian girl. And that was very much, you know, when we saw that, I mean, she looks at it in such a beautiful way, but no one, interesting, the adults don't notice it. She's trying to get their attention, but they're not even thinking about it, but she looks directly into the camera. Yeah. It's just, you know, again, it's about, you know, just sort of being observant to the world and not wanting to sort of be sort of too intrusive. Yeah. I can't really say anything about Blitz right now, but again, I think, you know, what's interesting about the living in Amsterdam, as far as what happened in London, again, it was our, you know, Blitz was like our finest hour, and to sort of come from London, an unoccupied country, and live in Amsterdam, and sort of see how there was a different sort of environment, different contrast. You know, again, there was an element of, you know, I would say, you know, there's lots of things which are hidden. And a lot of shame in one way, shape, form, or the other. It's interesting to go from one environment during the war, as far as the history of the war, and how it affected the population, to another. Yeah, I don't know if you want to add to that. I don't know. But no, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
It was interesting to see, as you can hear in the film, that the invasion of London they were planning was planned from Amsterdam, from a large part. There would be the German soldiers would be marching through the streets singing, "We are marching against England." Yeah.
And the assembly of some of the V2 rockets was just down the road from us. Yeah, it's interesting. Again, it's one of those things which, you know, how this came together is a very odd in a very odd way, because, you know, I was focusing on doing this idea of Amsterdam being occupied, living with ghosts, and Bianca was writing her book, and by coincidence, the two things came together. Oh, okay, then the past could be text, and the present could be the present, so the combination of the two. But this was happening in our everyday life. Our daughter, we went to that school where, you know, it was the SAS sort of interrogation center where kids are jostling, putting their rucksacks away, you know, parking their bikes. Our son went to another school, which was the
prison, yeah. So you can see how intertwined that history still is within the geography of Amsterdam.
Yeah, and at the same time, it's intertwined with us buying cornflakes, so it's kind of weird, you know. There is a sort of weird sort of existence with living with ghosts. Very strange, and just wanted to sort of sprinkle some flour over the past to illuminate it in this picture. That's all we wanted to do. Thank you for coming. Thank you for spending your evening with us. Very appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.